There was a degree of optimism yesterday, improved performance, and yet almost 24 hours on, I think there's the reality of still 50-point gap at home to the French and a litany of things for Ireland to try and fix. So where are you?
Yeah, I think even looking at the table there in that -76 scoreline and sitting at the bottom, the reality of Ireland facing a wooden spoon battle is really setting in. Look, you have to be somewhat positive about the performance, and we chatted and we focused on the scrum and maul defence, and at times that was excellent, and they did really kind of up that. And when I was watching the match, I actually thought their defensive system looked better, but when I rewatched it, there was 46 missed tackles, which isn't really a great stat to have. So that probably is a little bit more disappointing today than being in the moment of watching that game. Lot to work on. You have to take the little positives, and we see Greg as a coach has to get his team up for the next battle, and it's going to be Italy. And like Grace you've been there. He spoke to you about being there in those moments and not feeling it. And I think they really have to go back and get these players to a better place for that Italian team.
Yeah, because Grace, we talked pre-game in the studio. Well, what's an acceptable day for Ireland today?
Yeah.
Did we get an acceptable day for Ireland or not good enough?
It's so difficult, it's such a young team, and we talked about before about having those experienced players. Before, you would have an established team, you would drop in a new player, it might be your debut, and you've experienced people around you, keeping you right, helping you build. But at the minute, we're at a squad that doesn't have that much experience, so they've nobody to lean on. It is harder for them. They're learning as they go, and it's maybe a little bit slower of a learning curve, but the performance was there. There was good spells, and I think it was a lot better. I know the score doesn't say that, but it was a lot better than against Wales. What I really wanted to see was that line speed coming up, and we seen at the start of that game, it did come up, as Fee mentioned, the maul defence. They stopped, the maul a couple of times, and Forlani had to then take it out. But this is a very dangerous French team. They wanted to really put in a performance this week. They weren't happy with their performance last week against Italy. It was in atrocious weather. But they are so dangerous. You miss one tackle against this French team, they get a break, half of a burst. Next thing, it's an offload.
Yeah.
Suddenly they're in behind you, and they're that powerful and fast that once the scramble defence just won't work against them. And we saw that, it's turnover, they move the ball wide, they gain metres, and it's really hard then when your momentum is going backwards.
It sure is. I mean, you mentioned the missed tackles, Fiona, 46 of them. They're just these costly mistakes, like the positioning of the back three, and what should be a nothing kick ends up being a try. There was definitely a lack of faith in their own line-out. They declined the opportunity to go for the corner in numerous instances. And unlike France, who, whenever they were in the Irish 22, you thought, well, there's probably a try on. Ireland probably lacked that cutting edge, like not to score a try. Something in attack needs to improve as well. It's a long list, is what I'm saying, and they don't have acres of time to fix everything.
No, and that's the issue. This coaching group have got them together. They obviously looked last week at line speed, looked at maul defence, and looked at setting that scrum up better. And we saw the fruits of that on the pitch. But there's so much to work on, like you said. A disappointing area when we were in studio watching the game also was around the attack. I mean, just getting inside 10 metres out, we've got to be far more clinical. And knock-ons, maybe not resourcing rucks, getting turned over. We've seen that in the last two games. So Grace spoke about, the senior players. I think sometimes they might lack that killer edge, that we're 10 metres out. There is no way we're getting held up. There is no way we're losing that ball. And as they play more competitive rugby, I'm hoping to see a lot more in these games.